Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2U's of 2U's Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2U's Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Marsha, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Good. Are you guys having sunshine?
Not today, but I will say, gosh, I don't know if it was Friday, but I know definitely Saturday, Sunday, beautiful here. In fact, I went one of the days, maybe it was Friday, I went to take Enzo for a walk, and force of habit, I put on my long, puffy down coat, and I went about 30 yards. I thought, well, this was a mistake. Because it was, I think it was like 58 or something. I mean, it was, which is kind of, I mean, warm after we've had really cold weather.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's cool, but it's not cool enough for a long puffy down coat.
So, so it is, so that was a short walk because I got pretty warm. But it's just been beautiful. The weather's been beautiful. We did, last Monday, we had another big windstorm. So what is today? Today is Thursday.
Today is Monday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm so out of touch with what's going on. Today's Monday, the 2nd, right?
Third.
No, the 1st.
the third.
It was last Monday, the 20th.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, big windstorm came through and I lost another branch off my tree, that big deodar cedar out in front. Mm-hmm. And I'm very grateful because it was so big. This one was much larger. I couldn't move it at all. And I was really grateful that it was about, 10 inches from the curb. And that my neighbor's car was parked right there at the curb.
Ooh.
And I'm like, and his little trailer that he has was parked there. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad it missed his car. Mm-hmm. So anyway, but I think that windstorm came and blew out all the clouds and the rain, and we had a beautiful weather. But we're back to kind of cold and overcast today. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, so are we. It was rainy yesterday, and I sat in the sunroom, getting our last episode out. I was a little bit late. And guess what I discovered as I was posting the most recent episode online?
Well, probably something we should have been paying attention to when we weren't.
Yes. As a matter of fact, yes. For some reason, I really thought I had been checking to see if we had comments on the blog. With the show notes, and not finding anything, not seeing any comments. Mm-hmm. What I didn't know is that there was this little thing that I noticed yesterday where I'm supposed to click to look at comments that need to be moderated. Mm-hmm. I do remember back during the pandemic turning on the comment moderation because we were getting spam in our comments. And so I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll turn it on so so I have to go in and say, okay, to put the comment up on the blog. And I guess I thought the notification or the place where I would see that would be more front and center. Because anyway, yesterday I discovered that we had all kinds of comments from the blog going back into 2023.
Oh my gosh.
And actually really some of it is kind of some of them are were kind of before that. Anyway, so I just want to make a blanket apology to everyone who has commented on the blog and not ever seen the comment show up. I'm sorry. I didn't know that was happening. And so now I put them all up into their normal place the blog posts that they go. But I wanted to address them. I wanted to address them here. So first of all, we have someone, Margaret. Margaret had posted back in the summer of 23 that she has a whip older than 1979. So she has one that's older than mine, and it's a needlepoint Sesame Street Oscar the Grouch that's almost complete. And she was making it for her daughter. Her daughter is now grown, 47-year-old firefighter. And all her grandkids are too old for Oscar the Grouch. Anyway, Margaret, I hope you did finish it. She said she thought about going online to find some yarn and just get this finished. I hope you did. I think that would be so fun, and probably your daughter would love it. I think anybody would love an Oscar the Grouch needlepoint from their mom. So I hope you finished it. Sorry we didn't see this post earlier because that's pretty funny. And then comment from Julie about joining a large number of stitches in the round. And she said something that I had wondered about. She said she makes her best attempt when she joins, and then after the first round, she looks very carefully because you can correct the twist if you've only done one round. And I kind of thought you could do that. I thought, why can't you correct it just in the first round? But I had heard you couldn't.
Like on hats and on hats and stuff. I've done that where if because this is back to, I'm sure, referring to the snowflower pullover when I had over 300 stitches. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that's what this is referring to. And I've done that with hats. Now what I do is I just knit 4 rows and then join in the round. So you have, and I talked about that. So you have more fabric, and then you have a little gap that you can just sew up, and it's not even noticeable. But I have noticed that if you join in the round and you see that you twisted it, when you get to the join, you can twist them and you don't see that twist at all. It's possible.
It might give you, if you really looked, it might give you a little irregularity in the cast on, maybe?
Maybe, but no one's going to be looking that close.
Right.
But 2 rows on, you can't do it. It would be noticeable.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right. And then this is a fun one from Cheryl Beckerich, who is a pattern designer. I didn't know you were a listener, Cheryl. Welcome. She says, thanks so much for mentioning the Solomon poncho. And I mentioned this back when I was looking for it seems like the last couple of years, I've been always searching for a project. Like, okay, I need to find a project for this yarn, or I need to find a project that fits that yarn. And anyway, it was one of those times when I was searching for a project. And she says, my husband and I were in the car driving, and I was listening to your podcast. Knitting podcasts are not his favorite, but since I was the driver, I get to control the audio. He was impressed to hear you talking about the Solomon poncho. If you decide to knit it, please let me know if you have any questions or comments. I love to help and see pictures. So yes, it's fun to impress your husband, right? When he realizes that someone is talking about you. So the next one is Caroline, and she says, you were talking about sock yarn, specifically merino silk. I made my husband a pair of socks containing silk. He says they're cool to wear, very comfortable, and so far they are wearing very well. I think this must have been the conversation about sock yarn and having, how can you make a sock yarn or use a sock yarn that's durable, that doesn't have nylon in it. I remember talking that there was a conversation about that. Mm-hmm. So Caroline has done it, and the socks are wearing well. I hope they're still wearing well 2 years later. Oh my gosh. And now here's one, Marsha. This one's for you. It's Leona.
I know. Mm-hmm.
Listening to your podcast, Fiber Arts Heartbreak, and I so get it. The amount of time, love, devotion, and emotional energy you spend on making anything handmade is phenomenal. So when something like this happens, it's totally understandable that you feel the loss. So she's talking about pottery and making pottery. She said, I will spend hours decorating it. First, I spend time designing what I want, perfecting the design, multiple attempts at design elements, attempted and reattempted. It's kind of like frogging. Not to mention, and here's the part of pottery that I think is heartbreaking. Not to mention, it has to also go through multiple firing processes. At any one of these stages, it can break. And some of these pieces are intricate and have intricate designs. There is nothing so soul-destroying as pulling a large platter out of the final firing of the kiln only to see that it has cracked in half. I think that's why I don't do pottery. Oh my God.
Yes, I took a ceramics class, well, at Whitman, Kelly. And then before that, when I was at the community college, I took a ceramics class and then also in high school. And I had that experience in all 3 classes. So things break in the kiln.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only took ceramics in high school, and I do remember that happening. I don't remember if it ever happened to me, but I remember it happening and thinking that was just, soul destroying is a good way to describe it. And so she's like, let yourself grieve. So that must have been back with your sweater that you put into the spin cycle.
I'm doing better because I can talk about it. So I mean, it's still, in fact, just an update. I still have that sweater. It's just down in a box in the basement with all my yarn and stuff. And I think about it sometimes like, well, when we talked about it later on, when I was doing a little bit better, talked about maybe cutting it, making it, felting it. It's very felted now, but maybe felting it even a little more and then cutting it and making like a case for my laptop or something.
Yeah.
But I haven't, it's low on my list.
Right.
I just try not to think about it. Thanks for reminding me, Leona. No, I'm just joking. I very much, even 2 years later, I guess it's been 2 years, I still appreciate no, this was last summer. Yeah, this is last summer.
We're coming up to closer time frame now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate that, her comments and her thoughts about that. Yeah. Anyway.
So we also have a couple of Whitman related comments, which is fun. Emma says, I always love hearing you talk about your time in Walla Walla because I lived there 2015 to 2019. I went to school at Walla Walla University. It used to be Walla Walla College when we were there, and Walla Walla Community College, and worked at the hospital. It's so cool to me and feels like such a small world that the host of my knitting podcast lived in Walla Walla too. I had barely started knitting when I moved away, so I haven't ever been to Purl 2. And then she says, earlier this year, she went to Echo Lands, which is a winery, with her sister-in-law, and they had sheep grazing in the vineyard. So this is really cool. She said, I'm sure they don't have sheep there all the time, but I plan on calling and asking next time I'm in town. The wine was delicious, so that was a great perk. Highly recommend next time you're out there. So very cool. Thanks, Emma. And then Kristen says, hi, it was so fun to hear about your witty reunion. Our son and daughter-in-law both graduated from Whitman in 2008 and 2010. Plus, my husband and I lived in Walla Walla in 1983-84. We may have crossed paths. And then she says, I remember merchants very fondly sitting and drinking coffee. We live in Bellingham now and frequent Seattle to visit the aforementioned kids. So yeah, very cool. We probably did cross paths. If you ever ate at the Homestead restaurant in Walla Walla, maybe I waited on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wish I had seen these at the time that they were posted. I'm going to do better at monitoring that. And then finally, Heather has a response for you, Marsha. She says, I'm sorry you didn't see the section of the yarn shop here in Fairbanks, Yarn Over, that has the yarn from local dyers and locally made fur pom-poms. This far north, we have fewer dyers than they have in the south, but we do have a local farm and mini mill who makes yarn from local sheep and musk oxen, with yak, dog, cat, and rabbit fur as well. You can get their yarn at the Alaska Fur Company. Hope you enjoy your next trip to the last frontier. So that was fun. I felt bad that I had not seen those comments before, but it was fun to read them. So if you're all still listening, thank you so much for commenting on the show notes. And other people, please feel free to do that because that's going to be a regular part of my routine to check to check that little spot where it says on the website, moderate comments. It should be a little bigger. I'm just going to say that website should have been designed to have that be a little more front and center, but now that I know where it is, we'll do better. Thank you. All right. So projects, Marsha?
Okay. So I have a finished project. The socks I've been working on, the Arna and Carlos colorway 03760, that I believe I got from the Knockers D-Stash room. I finished that last weekend. I finished the second sock, and then I have to report on the Ames Beanie. So do you remember, Kelly, we've talked about this, but I had, it's a cabled pattern.
This is the one that you
crossed the wrong way.
Yes.
Yes. So we had Kim and I did a 4 nights, I guess it was, down in Coos Bay, Oregon. And I brought the hat with me and with a plan to those 9 stitches just to rip back, which I did. And I don't know. I think maybe I didn't go back far enough. I don't know. It looked terrible. So to your point, do you remember what you said to me the last time? Has it been faster?
You should probably just rip it out. Mm-hmm.
So I just ripped it back. And because it was really easy to put back on the needles because it's worsted weight and it's kind of, you know how some yarns are kind of sticky?
Yes.
Like if you have like a silk or it's not like silk merino or something, like they just, like the yarn I used we were talking in the last episode about graffito, right?
Yeah.
Tossing it down and how it was very slippery yarn. But this is not that way. So it's very easy to get back on. And so I've been working on that. It's not done. I have to now knit back to the point where I was before, where I start the decreases. So anyway, I made some progress on that.
Nice.
And
that's been hanging around. That's been hanging around on your list for a long time.
Yes. Let's see. Well, because I bought the yarn in Walla Walla, so September. Mm-hmm. In fact, I believe I didn't cast on because I didn't have the yarn wound into a cake. I must have cast on when I got home. But anyway, but then I cast on another project, and I did cast on The Weekender by Andrea Mowry. I'm using Cascade 220 in the colorway Wine, and the pattern calls for size 9 needles, but I didn't even get close to gauge with 9s, and it was a very loose fabric. I didn't think I was going to like it. It was, what's the term in weaving?
Sleazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I went down to 8s, and I'm still off by half a stitch, but 7s were too small. Mm-hmm. So I didn't like the fabric. So I'm using 8s, and I've had to, so I'm making the size 2, I believe, which I keep checking the math, and it's going to make it about, you're supposed to have 10 inches of positive ease, which that means I should have, if my bust is 42, I should have 52 is what the finished size should be. And it just feels too big. So I'm going to have the size I'm making, I should have about 49.5 inches of ease. Mm-hmm. So what is that? 7.5 inches of ease? Mm-hmm. I think that should be fine. Yeah. So I am knitting on it right now, and I have maybe another 1.5 inches to go before then I'll split for the sleeves.
You've made good progress.
So I made very good progress because Kim drove to the beach, and it's about a 6-hour drive. Longer, and I'll talk about why it was longer than that, but and then 6 hours back. So that's 12 hours of knitting, and that's all I did was knit on this. And then in the car, and then at the beach, we arrived Thursday evening. Friday was beautiful. Took the dogs to the beach. But then and you know this, Kelly, but Enzo got very sick. I think he ate something, and was really sick.
He had some bad seafood.
Yeah, he had bad seafood. And anyway, he probably something he got on the beach or something. Anyway, So he started getting sick Friday night about 9:30. And so I took him outside at 9:30, 12:30, 2:30, 4:30 in the morning. And
Poor guy.
So I won't go into all that, but people know what it's like when you have a dog that's sick. So just to take it easy, we put him on the chicken and rice diet. Kim went and got that for him, and I just stayed with him. And then we just kind of took it easy, and the only activity we did really was just to walk around through the parking lot. And otherwise we just sat and knitted. We did go and get him the chicken and rice, and then he also was limping, and so we got there was no vets open that I could talk to. I wanted to get some sort of pain medication for him, so we did go to the pet store and we got some of the CBD treats that helped, and he really seemed to help. Just a follow up to that, I did talk to the vet. He went to the vet I think the Wednesday after we got back, because we are going back down to the beach in this month. We're going to the Washington coast, and I wanted to have some pain medication for him, like doggy ibuprofen to help with soreness. And she did say there's nothing really wrong with giving the CBD to your dog, but they said that it's not regulated the way other prescription pain medications are regulated. And so just that it's not regulated the same way. So there might be things in those treats. There are those, they're not tablets, they're treats. Well, they're not really treats, but you know what I mean, that are, may not be good for your dog. So he's got now a prescription for the beach for some, if he's sore. But anyway, so I got a lot of work done on that. And then our last full day, poured down rain.
Well, I was going to say, I saw the video you sent me. I mean, it looked like missing going to the beach wasn't a bad thing because it looked like terrible weather.
Oh, it was terrible. But these little cabins, so Kim and I each had a cabin, so we could see each other and we could talk to each other on the phone, but we just stayed in our own spaces. Because they're very small. They're like tiny homes, kind of. They're very, very tiny. And so there really wasn't a lot of room for us to gather in. Yeah. It was challenging to gather in one. But it was kind of cool because you had a sliding glass door on the front of it. And that's about as wide as these buildings are. And then two big plate glass windows, on the sides. Oh, wow. So you kind of felt like you were right in the middle of the storm with the rain and the wind, but you're warm and dry. It was kind of exciting, I have to say. Kind of fun. So I just sat and knitted on the hat and my sweater, and because I finished my socks, I then cast on for another pair of socks. And so, in terms of crafts, it was great for me. Not so much fun for the dogs, but because they really, by then, Enzo was feeling much better, and I think they really wanted to go to the beach. But I would take him out to go lift a leg, and he was ready to come back in. So he thought he wanted to go to the beach, but when he went outside, he knew he didn't want to go to the beach.
Smart.
Yes. And so then I just have to touch on weaving. So the Morgan's Pinwheels is the pattern I'm making on the loom for towels. I changed the tie up and I started my fourth towel, and I've knit maybe 4 inches.
Woven.
I'm sorry.
You've woven.
I woven 4 inches, and there's just a lot going on right now. So I'm hoping that I will get that 4th towel done before the end of the winter weave along. I'm hoping I will. I think I will. I don't think I'm going to get a full towel. I think it'll probably end up being like a square.
Okay, because the last episode you said you had originally thought it was going to be a square, but then it looked like maybe you were actually going to get closer to not a full towel, but closer to a full towel.
Yeah, I'm changing my mind now.
Okay.
I'm changing my opinion. I think it's going to be a square. We'll see. So
the design is really nice. I like the color and weave that you're doing. It's been really fun to see the towels.
I kind of think I don't know. I think a lot of things when I'm down there weaving. My mind thinks of Is that how you are too, Kelly, when
Yeah.
you're weaving? Do you just start thinking? Okay.
That's why I like it.
It reminds me of my father, who, as you know, was a school teacher, and all school teachers painted houses in the summer to earn extra money. And he said what he loved about painting is his mind was free to just think. You know, he just would paint and think. And that's how I think weaving is. I think that's how knitting is, but I think, and spinning, but it's nice to just can sort of think about things. So I started thinking about projects. I was thinking I might just make these towels again. Or because I really like them, or I may move on to something else. But anyway, but what I want to talk about weaving, because it also combines with the trip to the beach, and I'll make this kind of short, but on the way down, and then it turns out on the way back, we stopped in Eugene, Oregon at the Eugene Textile Center. And the first thing I'm going to say about it is, I don't think that we realize, I think because it's happened very gradually and slowly, how retail shopping has changed so much that we talk a lot, like sometimes there isn't the products that we used to have, or there isn't the selection there, because everything is so much shopping is now done online. And what was so fantastic about Eugene Textile Center is you went in there and there was maybe 7 to 9 people working in there, a bunch of people just doing mail orders, and then a bunch of people at desk that would just get up and help you with any question you had. And they were so helpful. And I said to the woman, she actually answered questions that I didn't know I needed to ask. Do you know that experience?
Yes, like the anti-Home Depot.
Yes. It kind of like in my neighborhood, we have a fantastic Ace hardware store. And it's the kind of place when and people who, I know there's listeners who live in my neighborhood, and so they'll know what I'm talking about. When you walk in there, there's just guys standing around. And you walk in their door and they say, "What can we help you find?" And then you say, and I now it's like, "I want this screw." And they're like, "Okay," or this light bulb or this, whatever. And so you don't spend, 30 minutes wandering around Home Depot. like you just walk in there and it's like, oh my God, it's fantastic, So Eugene Textile Center, if you're a weaver, if you have a chance to go in there, I cannot say enough nice things about it. And I bought, some cotton yarn, just white, because I didn't have any white in the weight of the colors that I have. So I bought some white. And they also have a pretty good selection of used equipment. So I bought a shuttle, and I also bought a 6-dent reed, because I only have one reed, a 12-dent. And I thought, I'm just going to go and get it, because they are about half the price of the new ones. But they were great because they, and I had told you this before, Kelly, but I don't know what you call the part on the reed, there's the top and bottom part of it that's kind of rounded, and that's what fits into the beater, and you clamp it in on those sort of rounded bits. And the one I was looking at, there was a 36-inch, but my weaving width is more than that. So and there's a bigger one, but it looked like it was kind of falling. I mean, like that rounded part was all falling apart and didn't look very good. But the actual reeds were good. There's no rust on them or anything. And so I said to the woman, I'm not sure which one to buy. And she said, "Oh, don't even worry about that. We'll fix it for you." So they just pull all that damaged plastic off and they recovered it.
That's really
no charge.
Nice. Yeah, that's really
nice. And so you just have to go in there and just like ask questions. And then, and the other thing they'll do too is if you find a reed that you like, but it's too long for your loom, they'll cut it down. I thought that was actually really interesting.
That's
and then
really
I also,
cool to know that you can do that.
Yeah. I will say, I don't believe any of the used equipment you can buy. It's not listed online. You actually have to go in there and see it.
Yeah, because I tried to look at it on their website and really didn't. Wasn't able to see.
They have a lot of looms for sale. New looms. You can buy a new loom there, but you can also buy used ones. They have like lots of shuttles. Kim bought a Nitty Naughty. What else? They have a ton of books on all kinds of weaving, but also crafts too. A huge used book section, and they have a estate sale where they just yarns from that people are deciding, well, spirit yarn, we call it spirit yarn, right? So that I didn't buy any of that, but that was really interesting. And then I did buy, the other thing I wanted to get was some of the Texsolve, because my treadles are tied up with the Texsolve, but they're just knotted and they're all different lengths. And I'm having a hard time finding the hole where what am I trying to say? Every time I change the tie up, I have to reconfigure how it's all going to fit in there together. It takes a long time. And then there isn't enough there. Some of the shafts are missing the Texsolve. So they were really nice too, because I remember we had a conversation about like there's a button or clips that you need to attach it. He said on my loom you don't do it, and he showed me how to attach it. And then they also showed me when you cut it, you need to melt the end so it doesn't unravel. And so they showed me, which I did not know. And that's what when I said to her, "Oh, you're answering questions I didn't know I needed to ask, because I didn't know I need to melt the end." And then she showed exactly how to do it so you don't get a black mark on it. And so they were just fantastic. But the one thing that was funny, I have to laugh because I am a new weaver, and on their website, they have a great pattern for a table runner. It's an overshot structure, and it's linen. And so I thought, I'm going to go there and I'm going to buy the linen to make this table runner. And so there's this woman who was helping me, and we were laughing at the end because I said, God, it seems like it says I need 5,000 yards or something of just one color, and I need 2 colors. And we were talking about it, and all of a sudden I realized, or she pointed out to me, she went off to ask somebody, but how do we figure out, like, do I really need that much? And then we realized it's it's how many yards per pound is a cone of yarn, is they are listing how many pounds there, or how many yards there is per pound. I can buy that, but how much I need for the project depends on what size I'm going to make the project, because do you know what I'm saying? So they're just, I'm a new weaver. Most of the stuff I've done is from kits where they just send you the yardage that you need, and this is the size that you're going to make. But with a table runner, you can make it as long or short as you want, or as wide or narrow as you want.
So you have to do the plan first.
So you have to do the math, right? And so we were both laughing because she goes off to ask, like, how do you figure out? Well, you have to do the math. So I said, I'm not buying it because it was very expensive. And I don't even know how much I need, right?
Yeah.
Because you can buy big cones, small cones anyway. It's just kind of funny. New weaver mistake. You need to do, it's just like a sweater, right? They will give you the yardage, but you still have to do math to figure out, like I was talking with the weekender, you have to do some math to figure out which size you're going to make. But with weaving, you definitely have to know the size you're going to make to determine your yardage before you go buy an interesting thing.
And
anyway,
I would suggest,
and then the last,
I would suggest, I don't mean to be a wet blanket, because anybody can do any level of difficulty project that they want at any point in their weaving. But I would suggest that overshot is something that, especially if the yarn is really expensive and it's linen, overshot's tricky, linen's tricky. Both of those, I would say, would be something that you probably would want to wait on. Like do some overshot in a dish towel pattern before you tackle something like an overshot table runner out of linen. And like I said, you can, anyone at any level can do any level of project. We all know of, situations where you jumped in and you did the hardest thing first and it worked out fine.
I 100% agree with you. And that's why I stood there when I realized what was going on. I thought, walk away. You're not ready for this. Just walk away. I was not ready for it. So there'll come a time when I'm ready for it, but I'm not ready for it right now. I need more time. So
it might turn out to be something like that intarsia sweater that you started at the retreat. Like when you were closer to being a new knitter. It wasn't any fun, right? And so
it almost broke me. If I had continued on that sweater, Kelly, I probably would not be sitting here now knitting on a sweater and having a podcast with you. Right. Good thing I just got rid of it anyway. So anyway, and then the other thing I just want to touch on is my weaving studio. I did go the other day. I was down there. Oh, when I went to change the tie up for the fourth towel, and I thought, this is ridiculous. I have way too much stuff in there. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I need to take to the Goodwill. And so I just pulled it out of the room and cleared out a lot of that space so I can move around the loom a lot better. And I don't like when I get down on the floor to climb under the loom, my rear end is not hitting the boxes and stuff. So I did that. So it's like just a little thing I did. It took me 10 minutes probably just to pull all that stuff out and put it in the utility side. So it's not gone yet, but then I have okay, this is Monday, right, Kelly? So yes. Wednesday, I have an electrician coming to put a new light in the ceiling of the weaving studio. Because right now, you have to walk into the dark and fumble around and find the string to pull the light. You have to pull the string down to turn on the light. So he's going to put in a wall switch so I can just flip a switch on the wall. So that's going to be, will be nice to have that taken care of. Yeah. Progress. So that's it for me for projects. Yes.
That's progress. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I don't have too much to say in the projects. Since finishing my weaving project, I haven't put anything else on the loom, but I am knitting on graffito as we speak. We went to the winery to pick up wine last weekend, and I brought it, and I was able to knit on it all the way down there and all the way home. I am now very close to binding off the ribbing. And what I ended up doing was a split hem with a longer ribbing in back and the shorter ribbing in the front, like my Rachel sweater. I did not put the very last stripe right at the top of the ribbing, the way the pattern called for. I just went right from the stockinette into the ribbing. So because I made it longer, I just decided that made more sense. And it kind of looks like Fibonacci. It's not Fibonacci, but it kind of looks like Fibonacci in the distance between the stripes. So like if you take the distance of the top two stripes together, that's about the distance of the third stripe. And if you take the distance of the second and third stripe of stockinette, then that's about the distance of the fourth stripe. And then if you take the third and fourth stripes of stockinette, or swaths of stockinette together, are about the same as the front stockinette plus ribbing. So that's why I made the decision to not put in the last round of that double tuck stitch. So I may bind off during our recording today. I'm that close. Although, because I'm knitting back and forth and it's a broken rib that I'm using, I have found myself making mistakes on the broken rib while we talk. And having to go back, because I'm doing the ribbing on the back side, and then I'm doing just plain old knit across the front side, which seemed like a good idea at the time, so that I could avoid purling all the way across the back.
Say that again.
So in a broken rib, you do like knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, right, all the way across.
Right.
And then if it's in the round, then your next round would just be knit, right?
Oh, right, yes.
But since it's back and forth, you do knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 on the front side, and then on the back side, it's all purl. And so I did that for one of the panels, right, the flaps or whatever of this split hem. And while I was doing that and I was purling all the way across, I was thinking, you know what? It would be easier to do the knit 2, purl 2 on the back side and then knit all the way across, right? Instead of having to purl all the way across. Well, in theory, that's really good. But you can't read your knitting as well on the back side. And so as I'm doing the knit 2, purl 2, I am occasionally getting off track and purling when I'm supposed to knit and knitting when I'm supposed to purl. And so some of my ribs, when I turn around and come around the front while we've been talking, been like, oh, there's a purl stitch in the wrong place. And so anyway, I may not get to bind off during this episode because of the mistakes that I'm actually making, but it doesn't matter. I'm very close to being finished with the front and back.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I want to just say too about graffito, because Kim is making graffito and she finished the body and got halfway through the ribbing. She's not doing a split. She's just doing it in the round. Got halfway through the ribbing and she's just doing ribbing. She's not doing the broken rib because she didn't, like many of us, we talk about this forever in this podcast, not reading the pattern carefully. So she just said, oh, you do the ribbing. And so she just started doing, is it a 2x2 rib or I can't remember
now. It's 2x2 in the pattern.
She just started doing that and didn't read that it's that you then knit every other row, the broken rib. So was almost done and decided to rip it back out.
Yeah.
Rip it out.
The thing I like about the broken rib is that it doesn't suck in. You know, you get the look of ribbing without the sucking in of ribbing.
Yeah, and so she put it on. She tried it on, and then she took her swatch. She just undid her swatch a little bit and then picked up stitches and just started doing the broken rib on the end of her swatch just to see. And she said after like 6 rows, she said, oh, I definitely need to just rip this out and do it the right way. She said, I won't be happy with it because it does suck in. And I think that sweater is kind of drapey. It's supposed to, I think it would look odd if it just sucked in like that, you know?
Yeah, it's not that type of sweater with you know, like tight ribbing on the sleeves or tight ribbing on the bottom. Yeah. So, and I'm really, I mean, I like how it looks. I like how it looks a lot with the split hem. And I like the sweater that I have that does that. I've been wearing it a lot and I really like it. So I am almost done with the body and then I'll pick up for the sleeves. And I'm toying with the idea. There was a point where I was thinking, oh my gosh, if I make the body longer, am I going to run out of the main color yarn? And I don't think I will. I have lots. I still have lots left. But as I was thinking that, I thought, you know what? Maybe I want to kind of put some of the color work from the top back in to the like lower down the sleeves, like the some of that brioche or maybe some of the, like there's the one part where it's pearls and yarn overs. That might be kind of fun. Or the place where there's like those blue, for you too, because your main color is blue, where it has like the blue dots, you know, the blue dots poking through the stockinette of the variegated color. Because I really like that variegated color and I have so much left. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the sleeves, but I'm very tempted to put a little bit more color work in them than the pattern calls for. So we'll see.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, because I do. I like that variegated. Do you have a lot of your variegated left?
I think I have about a 2-inch ball, maybe a 3-inch ball.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I don't know.
Because I have.
Why, do you have a lot more than that?
Yeah, I have about half a skein left. Oh. Yeah.
What was the yardage on that?
I don't know. It must have been big yardage. This was from the Knockers from the Knockers Retreat yarn. So I don't remember what the yardage was, but it must have been big because I have about half a skein left. So I'm tempted to use more of it in the sleeves. We'll see. Stay tuned, as we say. For sleeve adventures. Potentially coming up. So, and then the only other thing I have to talk about are 2 potential projects. I had talked about doing the Alchemist vest with my that hand-spun Shetland that I ripped out. And it's a DK weight. That's what the pattern calls for. And I have like a light fingering weight held double is what I used before. So but I really like the V-neck, the way the V of that sweater looks. But I saw on Instagram that Thea Coleman has a vest coming out this week. And it's actually, what caught my eye is it's actually made of farm yarn, and it's the same color as my Shetland. And it's an all over pattern, which is kind of interesting, instead of just stockinette. I think the name of the pattern is The Last Word, but I may be misremembering. But anyway, so I'm going to wait and see what that pattern looks like and what size of yarn it is and whether I can get the right gauge for that one. And I think I might be making that vest instead. But all I could see on Instagram was just like a one little bit of it, like a sneak preview. So I haven't seen the whole vest, so I don't know for sure if that's what I want to do. And one of the reasons that the maple vest didn't work was because I didn't have flexibility because of the design. I didn't have flexibility to stop when I ran out of yarn or reconfigure the length or, because of the pattern repeats. So I'm a little like thinking maybe that's this vest pattern might be a bad idea because it does have a pattern repeat. So again, stay tuned. And then the other thing that's kind of on my radar is that Solomon poncho that I was talking about before. It's cable. It's a beautiful cabled poncho, kind of heavy weight. I think it's also DK weight, but it's like big and squishy poncho with a kind of an open turtleneck neckline. It's not really a turtleneck because it kind of flops open. Kind of shawl collar-y, maybe, is more
like a cowl. Isn't that
kind of
cowl? No.
Yeah, well, kind of like a cowl, but it's split. So it so it's not it has a split in it. But anyway, I'm that's back on it's been in my queue since 2023, and I was looking through my queue looking for things to make. My constant what should I make next kind of thing. And I saw it, and then that comment popped up from the pattern designer Cheryl. So I went and bought the pattern this morning. So it's in my queue. I have the pattern. I think I have yarn hand spun that would be perfect. I just don't know if I have enough, and I don't know. I'll have to check the weight again, but I think it's the right weight. I'd have to swatch and make sure. But anyway, yeah. Only plans, no real projects. Except the sweater, which is probably good because that will make me get it done. I needed to get it done so we can wear our twin sweaters to Knockers.
Yes, I know. Probably the only time they'll be seen together, right, Kelly? Because we're in different states.
That's right. Yeah. So that's it for me.
Okay.
But we have a couple of questions from listeners. We had asked what they wanted to hear about. And Summer messaged us and said that she is a knitter and a brand new weaver. So that's exciting. We have quite a few brand new weavers in posting in the Ravelry group. She says she's an EMT, so she spends a lot of time in the truck driving and listening to podcasts. So anyway, she is interested in using hand-dyed and hand-spun fibers, but she really hasn't seen anything like that being used in the weaving books that she's been looking at. She's only done some weaving with cotton weaving thread, like, like my favorite project, dish towels.
Yeah.
So she's asking about some ways she said, I would love to hear about clothing made from those interesting fibers being like hand spun and hand dyed, knitting yarns, more along the lines of her knitting yarns, especially shawls and anything else that you've discovered about using interesting fibers in practical projects. So I put that out to our Ravelry group, and we got some responses. But before I look at those, Marsha, you have some experience with weaving that wasn't just cotton yarn.
Yeah, well, I did the alpaca shawl. That was I talked about that forever, but that was some alpaca lace weight yarn that Kim had, and she was just going to give it to the Goodwill. So I thought, well, I'll try weaving with it. I think it turned out fine. It's, that was only the second project I'd ever done. And I think that we talked a little bit about this, Kelly, before we recorded, but I think alpaca might be fine for weaving but the lace weight I had was 2-ply and very loosely plied. So I had a lot of issues with the warp breaking.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if it had been more loosely, had more twist in it, it would have been stronger. That might be one thing. And then we were talking too that it would have been better for the weft, and the warp should have been maybe a wool or some other fiber or something that had either a stronger fiber or something. Well, actually, it's really about how much twist it has in it, really. But I think it turned out fine considering the problems I had with it. But that's the only experience I have with, and that was not hand spun. I've not done hand spun. Now, Kelly, you've used hand spun because you made a blanket for Ben years ago out of hand spun, and
yeah.
In fact, and you have the blanket you made for yourself too, the one that you over dyed
yeah.
And what was that fiber?
That was wool.
Well, Ben's was wool, and it wasn't Ben's meat sheep.
Yeah.
Wasn't Ben, the one you made for Ben?
Yeah. Yeah. Ben's was all from the big stash of wool I got from somebody who said their father-in-law had a barn full of wool. Yeah. Yeah. And I sent it away to be processed. And I think Ben's was spun out of the wool once it came back from being processed. I also processed a lot of that on my own. But I think Ben's was spun from the fiber that had already been processed. So and that held up really nicely in the warp, my hand spun, and it was I dyed it. And the other one was a fleece that I bought at the fair. It was probably medium, kind of a medium grade wool. Maybe it was not a Corriedale, but like around that kind of. That type of fleece, sort of a medium workhorse kind of fleece. And we have that on the bed. And that blanket has been really nice. That's when both of them I will double weave. So, I could get double the width of the loom. So blankets are great. And then I have a blanket that I made from just random hand spun from braids. I think almost all of those were from commercial braids that I spun and I used for warp and weft. And that was a great project. And then Pat, Data Knitter, she shared on the board. She has a red and purple shawl that she made. It's gorgeous. That's hand spun in the weft and the warp. And then she also has commercial yarn along with it. So you can mix, you could use commercial yarn for the warp if you didn't feel like your hand spun was strong enough. Amanda Grable, she showed us a couple of scarves she had made that she used commercial yarn as warp and then hand spun in the weft so that she could maximize her use of the hand spun. Because if you use it as warp, you're going to lose some to loom waste. And so,
you're right.
So,
right.
you have to be willing. You have to be willing to do that. And then Kathy Straight Fork, she shared her hand spun alpaca blanket that she made. And then there's one woman, her name is Linda CC on Ravelry. She's not in our group. I don't know her personally. But I'm always impressed with her weaving projects because every time she uses her hand spun and she posts a weaving project in her project pages, and when she posts the picture, a lot of times she'll have a picture of the braid, a picture of the hand spun yarn, and then a picture of the project that she did. And she's super prolific. So she has, I don't know, what seems like hundreds of projects where you can see what the braid looked like, you can see what the yarn looked like, and then you can look at her project, and it's all in her project. It's all in one project page. So that's always fun. I enjoy seeing her posts because looking at that transformation from fiber braid to yarn to woven item. And she mixes too. She'll use her hand spun along with like a tencel or silk or, something else. But she has some really beautiful, beautiful projects. And then another suggestion from Reed Knit Snark. Her name is Rue. She isn't a weaver, but she mentioned shawls. And she mentioned that, people say that weaving is faster. And so especially if it's a gift, that's a good choice. But she also mentioned, and I think this is a great idea, baby blankets that are sized like for a car seat. So you don't have to worry about
really good
double
idea.
weaving and, making it wide. Yeah. Yeah. So, and, if you either spin a superwash or you like to buy skeins of sock yarn, which we all do, it would be a great idea for a superwash skein of sock yarn because you want, for a baby blanket, I think you want it to be, washable. So yeah, lots of practical projects that you can make with hand spun. And, you don't have to just stick with dishcloths, although I love dishcloths, but you don't have to stick with dishcloths. So I hope that answers your question, Summer, and I hope it inspires you to weave with some of those knitting fibers that you have.
Yes, and I'll report in. It's not an unusual fiber, but I'm hoping to make rag rugs, so that'll be an interesting fiber to weave with.
Yeah.
Old sheets,
No, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have some other questions too. Do you want to talk about these?
Yeah, let's go ahead. So Sarah Salpal, she has asked some questions. We had, like I said, we had asked people to, what they want to hear about. And so she had listed 3 questions for us. The first one is, why do you attend retreats? Marsha, why do you attend retreats?
Well, there's really only one retreat I attend, which is the Knockers, and it's just so much fun, right?
Yeah. The laughing.
Yeah.
I think that's why I attend retreats.
It's so much fun. Yeah, it's like you come back just sort of exhilarated, I come back on a little bit of a high, it's just fun. I enjoy all the people so much, really learn a lot from people. Interesting to see what everyone's knitting. We all knit such very different projects. That's really fun. Just fun to, and I mean, it's, of course, we've been going now. I think, isn't this going to be their 10th anniversary, I think?
Yeah, 2015. Well, 2015 was the first one. I mean, we had a couple years off during the pandemic, but.
Right.
But yeah.
So I guess technically not the 10 times. We won't have been together 10 times, but it kind of feels like it, that we've made some good friends, and it's interesting how it's like a year has not passed. It seems like we just saw them, and then we sometimes see people at different shows. Like we see people at Stitches, which alas is no more, but and we would see them at the Black Sheep Gathering. I've seen people when they would come to Seattle for Red Alder. So, yeah, I think it's just like it's a really nice way to make friends, see people face to face. You know, maybe we talk online, but it's nice to see them face to face. I don't know. How about you, Kelly?
Well, I do think that my style of retreat is a really lazy one. You know, like I did take classes at Stitches. Stitches wasn't, I don't think of Stitches as a retreat really, but I did take classes at Stitches. And I would like to do more things where I do take classes. It's harder, you know, with working. Maybe once I'm retired, it would be easier. I don't plan to retire anytime soon, so maybe not. I like, you know, I like the idea of taking classes, but I don't want to take a class in a retreat. In a retreat, I just want to sit. In fact, we don't even go on walks at the retreat that we go
I know.
to. People are like,
and
we're going
supposedly
out for
we're
a
the
walk.
walkers, right?
Yeah. We're going out for a walk. I'm like, I'm sitting my butt right here in the chair and knitting. I mean, I like the time to just dedicate to that and say, this is just going to be fiber time that I just laugh and joke and knit and eat and drink and relax, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of retreat that it's the only retreat I have gone to, and I really enjoy that about it. I'm not so sure I would enjoy a retreat that had a lot of activities going on.
Yeah. I would say I had another reason too, and it's fun to go to a retreat in another country. I've only been to the one,
yeah, that's right,
which was the retreat in Scotland. And so it's kind of fun. That was really fun to plan a trip around. So the first trip to Scotland was planned around the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, but the second trip to Scotland was planned around the knitting retreat in John O'Groats, which is the very northern part of the country, which then led us to do the North Coast 500, the road that goes all the way around the northern part of Scotland. So that was kind of fun to have that as the framework, and then build a framework around that. And then so, because Kim and I have been looking at figuring out if there's another retreat that we could go to in some part of the world where we want to travel, and then build
that's a
trip around that.
That's a good idea. Attending a retreat as a focus of a travel.
Yeah,
it's a really good idea.
And the Iceland trip was not really a retreat, but I mean, it was definitely a knitting fiber arts related trip, but it wasn't a retreat. But anyway, yeah. So her second question is, what do you imagine yourself doing in 10 years? And full disclosure, we did talk about this before, and we both started laughing that we just are trying to figure out how to get through today.
Maybe a little bit of thought about tomorrow. 10 years is too long of a horizon.
But if I stop and I kind of like think about it, probably in 10 years, I hope we still have the podcast. I hope I'm still have the mental faculty to be doing this. I hope I still am excited and inspired by knitting and weaving, and it'll. I think in 10 years more of the same. That's kind of what I'm hoping.
Right. Yeah. I think
how about you, Kelly?
Robert might be hoping I'm retired in 10 years, but I'm not ready to think about that.
No. They're taking you out of the classroom in a pine box, Kelly.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I don't have a 10-year horizon. Yeah, I really don't. But I can't imagine that I won't be making things. I know I'll be making things.
Yeah.
Maybe different things than I'm making now, but I'll definitely be still doing stuff with
not
yarn,
ceramics though,
fleece.
right?
No, not ceramics. Actually, you know what? I don't know. There is quite a community of women who take the ceramics class at Hartnell, and that it might be kind of fun to do that just for the community of it, not the actual project. So
yeah.
But again, that's something for the future. Definitely. So yeah, and then the last question that she asked is, what is our entertainment outside of the fiber arts? I think you have more than I do.
Really? I don't know. Well, I was just sitting now, just thinking, cleaning, purging the basement. No, I'm kidding. Because one of the things I talk about, well, I think I really enjoy cooking, and I enjoy gardening. I've always enjoyed having a vegetable garden. This house, it's a bit more limited, but I have sort of set the goal this year as the south garden is a bit, it's a bit of a wasteland right now, to get that prepped for maybe putting some vegetables over there. I've just been having a few plants in pots on the south side of the garage. And if I could get that south garden kind of going, I'd like to have some vegetables, and cut flowers, that kind of thing. Enzo, we're not really doing training anymore. He's 9, but I really enjoy walking with him through the neighborhood. I like, okay, this sounds really creepy, but I like seeing houses and what people are doing to their houses. I like, and I try to vary my route, and that's what I really liked about the distance walking when we were doing this, like walking through different neighborhoods and looking at people's gardens and their houses and stuff. What else?
Travel. You do a lot of travel.
Yeah, I travel. I do a lot of travel. I like, and I, right now with Enzo too, I think one of my favorite things to do is just to go to the Washington coast and walk on the beach with him and just let him run and throw the ball for him. And then now that Kim has Orkney, they are good buds. They like to hang out together, and they've got their little dynamic in their language and the way they play, so that's really fun. I think just one of the best things in the world is watching dogs on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, what else do I do, Kelly? I don't know.
That's a lot.
Oh, hiking. I hike. I like going. I went hiking not too long ago in the snow. That was interesting. I enjoy trying new restaurants, but I have to say I don't do very much of that now because it's become quite expensive. So I'm eating out less probably, but I don't know. What else do I do? I don't know. I knit and I watch movies on Netflix and stuff. That's about it. I don't know what else I do. Yeah. So
I guess.
But you do a lot with the dogs.
Yeah, the dog training.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy. I guess you could call that a hobby. And, again, a community of people that I go to class every Monday night, and then they have training day on Friday, which I don't make it to those very often during the school year, but I was going a lot last summer. We haven't been to very many shows, but I think that's fun. And, we got weathered out of the last one, but I have to get on the calendar and see if I can find another one to go to. And taking the trailer out and camping, I enjoy that. That's entertaining. I don't do a lot of walking anymore, which is sad. I keep trying to get back to it, but I'm having a hard time with school, making it work, making the walking work with school, my school schedule. Partly because I don't get myself up and out of the house early, and that's really what it's going to take. I think I have come to the conclusion that if I don't just get myself up and out of the house early to do it, it's not going to happen, because my evenings are they're structured already, with dinner, or I have a board meeting, or we have a dog training class, or there's things going on in the evenings that make that not feasible. And it gets dark, it's still getting dark relatively early. So I don't know. I have kind of simple, kind of simple interests, gardening was a big thing for a while, and I haven't done so much of it. My bees are kind of keeping themselves. I do have one hive still, and I haven't gotten back to doing much with them except just watching them, which is fun. I enjoy it. I like watching them come in and out. So it's not a very exciting life.
No, but I have to say, I find that I just enjoy being in my little world in my house and my garden. I think, I like to travel. I like taking the dogs to the beach, but I'm also very happy sitting on the deck, or puttering around my house.
And really most of my entertainment is coming from the weaving, the knitting, the carding of fiber, the thinking about what project is next, the planning of the next project. That occupies a lot of my outside of work time, I have to say.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun to have those questions to answer.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say, just because it's at the bottom of the show notes, Winter Weave Along. We've been talking a lot about weaving, but that ends March 31st. So still time. Lots of time, almost a whole month.
Yeah, less than a month.
And then I just added
a little.
I just added in here, Kelly. I forgot to add this in. I just added it in just now. But when I was down at the beach with Kim, she was telling me that one of her friends told her about a website called plaidmaker.com. And I believe it's based out of Portland, Oregon. But you can design your own plaid.
Oh, fun.
And then, so anyway, I'll put a link in there. But I looked at it and I played around a little bit, and there's actually a YouTube video that they have about how to use the program. So, because for me, it was not exactly intuitive, but you can watch the video. And then, so you can design your own plaid, or there's a bunch of plaids that are already on the website designs, and you can take one of those and then modify it for your colors, or if you want the stripes bigger, narrower, whatever, you can change all of that. So cool. That's kind of interesting if people, and so you can use it for, it's for weaving. So, because obviously plaids are woven. So anyway, I just wanted to just mention that because I thought that was actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I just went to the website and I'm just looking at it right now. Interesting. I think somebody talked about this at some point in one of maybe on our thread or maybe on another weaving thread that I was looking at, but I don't remember ever going. I don't remember ever going to this website. So that's cool. Yeah. All right.
Probably. I know we talked earlier about stripes. There's a couple of different websites for making stripes. But I thought this one was pretty interesting. So, and then you can see, I think you would show what it would look like if you did it in tabby, or if you did it in a twill.
Oh yeah, yeah.
How the plaids change, which is kind of interesting too. So, Okay, I think that's the very last thing. Or is there anything else we need to say?
No, I don't think so. I think that's it.
All right. So with that, we'll say goodbye and we'll talk.
Okay. Bye.
All righty. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2Us
Doing our part for World Fleece.